So, what happens when your perfect assistant, like the one who anticipates what you need before you even ask, filters out the noise, and gives you complete control over your day? What happens when they just vanish overnight?
Well, I mean, it's terrifying, honestly.
Right. We're looking at a tech story that is literally unfolding right this very second. We just watched a highly funded, beloved, incredibly hyped AI startup suddenly close its doors forever.
It is the absolute definition of tech ecosystem whiplash. One day, you're the future of personal productivity, and the next, well, your servers are just unplugged.
Yeah, so our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the wild one-year life cycle of an AI audio app called Huxe. And we have a massive stack of sources to pull from today.
Yeah, we do.
We're looking at tech reviews from Wired and XDA developers, the launch and postmortem pieces from TechCrunch, Wayback Machine archives of their website, and a massive timeline of social media threads from the founders themselves.
Which is fascinating to read through, by the way.
It really is. Because this isn't just a story about a failed app, It's a real-time case study on the future of personal AI, data privacy, and basically the stark reality of what happens when startups try to outrun big tech.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to look at the pedigree of this team first because, well, it explains why their sudden shutdown is sending such huge shockwaves through the industry. I mean, these weren't just kids building an app in a dorm room.
No, absolutely not. So where did these developers actually come from? Because you don't just secure, what was it, 4.6 million in seed funding right out of the gate without some serious industry street cred.
You certainly don't. So back in December 2024, 3 developers, Reza Martin, Jason Spielman, and Stephen Hughes, they left Google.
Okay, heavy hitters already.
Exactly. And they were the core team behind Google's wildly popular NotebookLM project.
Oh, right. That's the tool where you upload those dense documents and it turns them into easily digestible audio discussions.
That's the one. So they wanted to build their own company, and that 4.6 million, that came from some absolute titans. We are talking about Figma CEO Dylan Field and even Google Research's chief scientist Jeff Dean.
Wait, having the chief scientist at Google Research back your AI startup after you leave his own company?
Yeah.
That is an unbelievable vote of confidence. I mean, everyone in Silicon Valley was watching to see what they do, but they didn't actually start with consumer audio, did they?
No. They made the standard safe play for enterprise software. They started off building a B2B chatbot.
So basically a tool companies buy to automate customer service.
Right, or internal IT requests, that kind of thing. But as they tested their models, they noticed this fascinating behavioral trend in the data. Their users didn't want to read text. They overwhelmingly preferred generating and listening to audio.
Wow. So by mid-2025, they pivoted hard into the consumer market and launched Huxe. And the core value proposition was audio-first personalized intelligence.
Yeah, they rolled out 2 main features that essentially redefined how we consume information. The first was called the daily briefing.
Right, so you securely connect your Google or Outlook calendar and your email inbox to the app.
Exactly. And in return, Hux builds you a custom morning podcast. It greets you, tells you the weather, reads your schedule, and then, summarizes your unread emails and newsletters.
Which sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But the second feature was called Deepcast, and this is where they evolved way beyond their NotebookLM roots.
Oh, completely. Because with NotebookLM, you explicitly upload a PDF or a text file, and it just summarizes that static document. Deepcast was tethered to the live web.
So you could just type a prompt into Huxe, and it would immediately research the internet and generate a deep dive audio podcast with multiple AI hosts discussing the topic.
In seconds, yeah.
I mean, it's like having a morning zoo radio show where you are the only demographic, combined with a highly efficient chief of staff.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
But the absolute craziest part of this app was the interactivity. They built in a tap and hold to speak button. You could literally interrupt these AI hosts mid-sentence and say, wait, explain that differently or give me more technical detail.
And the host would adapt their conversation in real time.
Yeah. So how does a tool like this shift our fundamental relationship with the internet? Because honestly, it feels like we're moving from a world where we actively search for information to a world where the internet dynamically curates itself for us.
It completely flips the cognitive load. Think about how you normally research a topic. You open 10 different tabs, you skim articles.
You ignore a million ads.
Right, you cross-reference sources.
Yeah.
The burden of synthesis is entirely on you. Hux took the raw, chaotic data of the internet and mapped it onto something humans are biologically wired to process. which is storytelling and oral tradition.
Wow.
By turning raw data into a conversational podcast, the application just removed the friction of consumption entirely.
And the journalist Manor Faisal over at XDA Developers experienced that lack of friction firsthand. She got early access to Huxe using the code 72492, and she raved about it.
Yeah, she configured her app to focus on technology, travel, and productivity.
And what struck her most was how remarkably natural the hosts felt. Like at one point, her AI hosts were discussing the local weather, and one of them casually joked, "Classic June evening, if you ask me."
Which is such a wild detail for an AI to generate.
I know. She wrote that her daily commutes were completely transformed by these bespoke 20-plus minute podcasts.
Well, a detail like that classic June evening joke is vital to user retention. It creates a parasocial relationship.
Right.
You aren't staring at a sterile dashboard of bullet points. You're being spoken to by voices that simulate human warmth and witty banter. It builds an illusion of companionship.
Which makes the information much stickier. And the user stories that emerged from this dynamic in the sources were incredible to read through.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, there was a family on a 5-month road trip who generated a custom deepcast about Joshua Tree National Park. But they specifically instructed the AI to tailor the content for their 9- and 5-year-old kids.
And the AI hosts actually used the kids' names in the broadcast.
Yes. They told age-appropriate dinosaur jokes, and they even gamified the drive by telling the kids to look out the window to spot specific rocks and plants.
Let's break down the mechanics of what is actually happening in that Joshua Tree example, because it is staggering. That is not just a text-to-speech engine reading a Wikipedia page.
No, not at all.
The system is performing dynamic, situational content generation. It's analyzing the geographical data of Joshua Tree, factoring in the cognitive development levels of a 9- and 5-year-old,
Right.
formatting that data into a 2-person script, adding demographic-specific humor, and synthesizing human voices to perform it, all in a matter of seconds.
It's mind-blowing. And then we also have the example of a vacationer in Florence, Italy, who asked for a deepcast on the history of the Medici family.
Oh, I loved this one.
Right. Because of that tap-and-hold feature, as they were walking through the city streets, they interrupted the AI and steered the audio specifically toward the historical banking scandals.
They were essentially art directing their own historical walking tour in real time.
Yeah.
And to pull off that real-time interruption, the AI isn't just pausing an MP3 file, it's holding the entire context of the article and the ongoing conversation in its active memory.
Wait, so when you press that button and speak...
It takes your voice prompt, runs it through a large language model to understand your new directive, generates a brand new script that seamlessly branches off the previous sentence, and renders the new audio file instantly. The latency has to be near zero, or the illusion of a conversation breaks.
Which is such a massive technical hurdle. And professions were using it just as creatively. A product manager detailed how they used Huxe to catch up on Google I/O announcements during their evening commute.
Because you obviously can't read tech blogs while driving on the highway.
Exactly. But Huxe was pulling the live reactions, the developer updates, and the tech specs from the web and formatting them into a clean conversational rundown. It sounds like pure magic.
It does.
But, and there's a huge but here, relying on this magic requires giving a third-party app complete access to your most private data, which, understandably, immediately triggered a backlash.
A chief of staff is only useful if you actually trust them with the keys to your life. The boundary between convenience and surveillance is razor thin here.
Oh, absolutely.
David Neild wrote a comprehensive review for Wired, and he zeroed in on the inherent anxiety of trusting an AI to filter your inbox.
Wait, hold on. Handing my raw inbox over to an AI, I have to draw a line there. I love the idea of learning about Florence on vacation, but the stakes of email are way too high.
Totally.
Like, what if my boss sends a passive-aggressive email and the AI summarizes it in my morning podcast as, "Your boss is happy with your work"?
Right. It misses the human nuance.
Or what if it decides a crucial project update just isn't, I don't know, interesting enough to make the final audio cut? You'd have to manually check your inbox anyway, just out of pure paranoia.
Which completely defeats the entire purpose of saving time.
Exactly.
You've just described the exact paradox of AI curation. The stakes for getting the history of the Medici family slightly wrong are incredibly low.
Sure.
But the stakes for missing an email from your boss or a bill payment or a medical update, those are catastrophic.
Neild noted in his Wired review that the app fundamentally lacked the context to know which emails were truly critical to his life and which were just noise.
Neild also dug into the privacy policy, which does not make me feel any better about handing over my calendar.
Yeah, the privacy policy was a bit of a red flag for power users.
Huxe stated they didn't use personally identifiable information to train their models, which is good, but the data was still being shared with third-party large language model and voice synthesis partners.
Do I really want the private contents of my emails being beamed to anonymous third-party servers just so a fake radio host can read it back to me?
Well, when you're dealing with API calls to external servers for voice synthesis and text generation, your data is leaving the walled garden of your device. For a lot of people, that was an instant deal breaker.
Definitely. And speaking of those fake radio hosts,
Yeah.
the magic of their voices wore off for some people incredibly fast.
Oh, the cringe factor.
Oh man, the cringe factor was real. Over on the XDA developer forums, a commenter named Nilo complained that the AI host had this exaggerated, chatty, cheerfully witty-ish banter that quickly became just cringe-inducing for everyday listening.
They were literally begging the developers to release a grown-ups alternative.
Right. If you're listening to this deep dive right now before you've had your morning coffee, imagine if I was screaming at you with morning game show host energy. You'd turn it off immediately.
Audio UI is a completely different beast than text UI. Text is emotionally neutral. You project your own internal voice and mood onto it when you read.
That makes sense.
Audio, however, carries inherent emotion, pacing, and personality. If the personality of your AI clashes with your current mood, like that overly chipper banter at 6:00 a.m., it creates immediate, visceral user fatigue.
And then there's the technical friction. Because when a web page freezes, it's annoying. But when an immersive audio app breaks, it is incredibly jarring.
Yeah, the immersion is totally shattered.
A user named Ed Incognito reported a glitch where the deepcast audio worked flawlessly for 30 seconds and then just looped endlessly over itself with no way to stop it. They specifically noted it was nothing like the stability of NotebookLM.
Wow.
Other users flooded the forums reporting that the skip buttons wouldn't work or that the pause function was completely broken during longer broadcasts.
Well, building a complex audio routing system that handles live web research, dynamic synthesis, and real-time user interruptions is incredibly difficult. But to their credit, the developers were intensely transparent about these bugs.
They were.
If you look at their social media threads from early 2026, they were shipping updates at a blistering pace to address all this friction.
They were constantly pushing new features. They removed the passcode requirement to open the floodgates for new users. They added Microsoft Outlook support because the community demanded it.
They fixed the pause bugs.
Right. They added a full transcript view so you'd read along, and they added playback speed controls up to 2x speed, which, let's be honest, is an absolute necessity for any serious podcast listener.
Oh, absolutely. They even rolled out lock screen background play and multilingual support.
And they also introduced live stations, which I thought was a brilliant concept.
Yeah, instead of generating a single, finite podcast, the app would continuously monitor developing news stories on the web and push live audio updates to your feed throughout the day.
They even tackled inbox zero guilt by adding a feature dedicated purely to unpacking and summarizing your massive backlog of unread newsletters.
The team was doing exactly what a nimble, well-funded startup is supposed to do. They found product market fit, that rare moment where a startup builds exactly what a rabid user base is desperate to use, and they were iterating rapidly.
And the engagement metrics were off the charts. Just a few days ago, the founders proudly posted that Huxe hit a record 900-plus hours played in a single Friday.
That's insane.
It's over 38 days of continuous listening squeezed into a 24-hour window. Users were listening to an average of almost 3 custom podcasts every single day.
Those are the kind of retention metrics that usually lead to a massive Series A funding round. Users weren't just testing the app, they had integrated it into their daily habits.
Which is exactly why the sudden death of this company is so jarring. On May 21st, 2026, literally days ago, the founders dropped a social media thread.
With no warning.
No warning at all. No rumors of financial trouble. They simply announced, "We've made the decision to wind down Huxe." They pulled the app from the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store that exact same day.
It's just wild.
They stated that by May 28th, the service will cease to function entirely and all audio generation will stop. And by May 29, all user data will be permanently and securely deleted. Poof, gone.
The brevity of that final announcement stands in stark, chilling contrast to the chatty, community-focused tone they had maintained with their users for an entire year. It was a shock to the system.
Okay, so what does this all mean? I look at this timeline and I am baffled.
I think a lot of people are.
Right. If an app with $4.6 million in funding, an elite ex-Google pedigree, brilliant founders, and a deeply loyal, highly engaged user base can get steamrolled overnight, what does that mean for software innovation right now? Can any consumer AI startup survive in this environment?
To answer that, we have to look at the postmortem analysis provided by Ivan Mehta over at TechCrunch. He identified the fatal flaw in Hux's business model, and it's a terrifying concept for any startup founder to grapple with.
What did he call it?
He called it commoditization. Hux wasn't killed by a lack of users or unmanageable server costs or even that cringe-worthy AI banter. They were killed by the tech giants who control the distribution channels.
Yeah, Mehta pointed out a detail that is almost painful to read. The exact same day Hux announced its shutdown, Spotify released a personal podcast feature that does essentially the identical thing.
The exact same day. And it wasn't just Spotify entering the arena.
Right.
The commoditization curve in generative AI is ruthlessly steep right now. Meta's article noted that Adobe, Amazon, Meta, 11 Labs, and even Google itself have all recently released highly advanced, similar audio generation tools.
Google just rolled out a feature to create dynamic podcasts directly from your Discover feed.
Exactly. Hux spent a year and millions of dollars proving that consumers desperately wanted this specific audio experience. They essentially built the market from scratch.
They proved the use case flawlessly.
But Meta's analysis reveals a harsh truth. Converting text to audio is no longer a defensible mode. It's a feature, not a standalone product.
Right.
If you don't control the underlying platform or the distribution channel, you're incredibly vulnerable. Just think about the user journey for Hux. You had to go out of your way to discover the app, download it, create an account.
Grant it terrifying levels of access to your private calendar and email.
Yes, and remember to open it every morning.
And meanwhile, Spotify, Meta, and Google already live on your phone. You're already logged in, they already have your billing information, and they already have your attention.
Exactly. When a giant platform can simply turn your entire startup's business model into a built-in feature, your runway disappears instantly.
It's the classic feature versus product dilemma, just playing out at hyperspeed because AI development moves so incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Why pay for a separate app when the app you already use for music just added a shiny new button that does the exact same thing?
And as Meta pointed out, as underlying AI models get better at seamlessly converting one format to another, text to audio, audio to video, video to code, companies that only focus on one specific conversion modality are going to find it nearly impossible to sustain long-term usage.
You just cannot out-innovate the tech giants when they have the infrastructure to absorb your innovation in their next routine software update.
You really can't.
It really makes you think about all those other startups trying to build in the audio learning space right now. The source articles mention companies like Obo, which was actually founded by former Spotify executives, and a company called Sun. They have to be looking at the grave of Hux right now, realizing that feature parity is coming for them too.
It forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question about the broader software landscape right now. Like, what is the true value of a startup in the age of generative AI?
Yeah.
Are these founders actually building lasting independent products? Or are they merely acting as an unpaid research and development wing for big tech?
Man, that is bleak.
But look at the facts. Hux did the agonizing work of figuring out the user interface, perfecting the live web research integration, and testing the interactive tap-to-speak mechanics. They took all the risks to find product market fit.
And the reward was being made obsolete by a Spotify update.
Pretty much.
That concept that startups are just unpaid R&D for Apple and Google is staggering. Hux gave us a brilliant glimpse of hyper-personalized interactive media, but it ultimately proved how ruthless the tech ecosystem is right now.
Without a doubt.
To quickly recap this journey for everyone listening, we had 3 brilliant ex-Google developers who took the magic of NotebookLM, supercharged it with live web access and calendar integration, and built a literal personalized radio station.
Which was an incredible technical achievement.
We had families road tripping to Joshua Tree with AI hosts and professionals turning their morning commutes into bespoke productivity deep dives.
Right.
But despite the undeniable magic, the friction of privacy concerns, the quirks of AI personalities, and the crushing weight of big tech's platform dominance proved impossible to overcome as a standalone product.
It is a perfect microcosm of the current technological era. The AI tools available to developers are incredibly powerful, but the ground beneath them is constantly shifting. A feature that feels like magic on Monday can become a basic free commodity by Friday.
So, think about your own daily routine. as these incredible personalized AI tools inevitably get absorbed by the giant platforms we already use, like Spotify, Google, or Meta, are we trading away our chance for a truly independent digital assistant?
That's a great question.
One that works strictly for you, and not for a massive parent company trying to keep you locked inside their ecosystem or quietly feed you targeted ads. It's something to think about the next time your phone cheerfully offers to summarize your day. Are you getting a dedicated chief of staff, or just another algorithm designed to keep you inside the walled garden? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and as always, keep questioning the information around you.